There's a story told about a guy who was 45 years old, a single Jewish guy, and he was a psychiatrist, and he couldn't get married. And his mother was getting very, very frustrated. You know, what's going on? No, get married. You know, you'll hear that. You will hear that. The mother's nudging. When you get married already? And the guy's like, leave me alone. Leave me alone, Mom. Just leave me alone. And this is going on years and years. Finally, he meets Miss White. Oh, perfect, the perfect woman for him. He's so excited. He says, Mom, I met Miss White. You know, Mom, I'm a psychiatrist, so I want to do a little experiment. Experiment? What am I, a guinea pig? No, Mom, it's okay, a little experiment. I like to have you come to a room, and I'd like to bring 20 women, and I want you to speak to each and every one, and see if you can maybe figure out who is Miss Right. I says, no, okay. Okay. He puts 20 women in the room, mother goes around, she meets every single one, talks to them. Son says, Mom, tell me, you have any idea, any inkling who might be Miss Right? And he says, of course, it's the Wunderblusche von Dress. Mom, that's uncanny, it's amazing, how did you ever know? He says, well, she was the only one I didn't like. Now what happens is that that's kind of like sort of the Jewish mother script. You may have this. I don't know. We may all have this. And what happens is that in life, when you're going to go meet someone, you want to find the right person in your life. And sometimes there's old baggage, there's family things that come into play. I'm trying to understand. Tonight, what I want to discuss soulmates. Okay? So I want to discuss, first of all, for those of you who are not married together, getting married, how to find your soulmate. That's one. And then what is the concept of soulmates? And hopefully those who are already married and have their soulmates, how to make the relationship of soulmates successful. Okay, so it's a tall order, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's start. The first question I want to ask you is, when you meet someone of the opposite sex, what is the first thing that attracts you to the person?
Smile.
Smile. Okay. What else? Let's be frank. Ladies and gentlemen. Okay, this is an honest person. Okay. It's the personality. Very good. Let's be frank. Come on. So, really, generally speaking, what happens is when you meet someone, the first thing that causes an attraction, generally speaking, we'll see some exceptions, but what happens is it's just some kind of physical connection. Okay? You see someone, you like it, it looks something about them physically usually grabs you, and very often that is the opening part of the relationship. So let's start from there. So I want to start actually to understand a little bit the power and pitfall of the physical attraction. Okay? So let's basically get the brass tacks first. Here's the question. The brass tacks question. I want to ask you, what was the first nudist colony in the world? The Garden of Eden. Man, it's too sharp. Can't pull a fast one on Sam.
No, I was there last time.
Very good, very good. How was it?
It's out of upstate New York.
Okay. Yeah. So the Garden of Eden. Very good. Thank you, Sam. So now, the Garden of Eden. That really was the first place there were people, like Adam and Eve, were there and they were unclothed. They were walking without any clothes. Now, what happens in the story? In the story, it happens that they go and they eat the fruit. It turns out they eat the fruit, and all of a sudden they realize that they're not clothed, and they put on clothes. Now, it's a little bit weird. How in the world is eating a fruit going to affect you that all of a sudden you realize, I'm not wearing any clothes? How does that work? What happens? He eats the fruit and he hears that Jewish mother's voice in his head. No, you're naked. It's a clothes on you. What's with you? What happened? Does anyone know what happened? How did it work that eating this fruit causes Adam and Eve to realize they're not wearing any clothes? Any ideas? Okay, I'll start. The fruit is called what? First of all, it was not an apple. Okay, let's just take that off the table. It was not an apple. That's not what it was. It was what?
Grapes.
Grapes. Could be it was grapes. We discussed that once. Yes, could be it was wine. We discussed that at the Friday night table. Fig. There's a lot of fig. Yeah. What? Etrog, right? We discussed that. But all these things that have different aspects of why these things that he ate caused something. What's it called? It's called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. See, people think it's a tree of knowledge of evil. It's not true. It's a tree of knowledge of good and evil. What does that mean? It means like this. It means Adam and Eve, in the very beginning, were seeing the world clearly. Okay? They saw the world in a very spiritual way. When they ate this fruit, what they were doing is they were entering into a world where good and evil was mixed up. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our world today. It's the world we live in. We live in a world that's not black and white. Any bad guy you meet does some good things. And every good person you meet does some bad things. There's a world where good and evil are mixed up. And when they ate this fruit, what it meant was they entered into this state of good and evil being confused and mixed up. And what happened? It means before they entered that state, they were on a spiritual level. So when they looked at each other, although they weren't wearing clothes, they saw each other as a beautiful spiritual entity. As a soul. Now, of course, the soul had a beautiful casing. The casing is what? The body. But when they saw each other as a soul with a body, a beautiful body that was covering it. That's what they saw. Now, today, the world's not like that. Let's be frank. If people are walking around with having clothes today, no one's going to say, hey, beautiful soul. It just didn't happen. It's not happening. Now, what happened? Why not? Because what happened was originally they saw each other as the spiritual being, and there was a covering. When they ate the tree of knowledge of good and evil, reality switched and things became mixed up. And now they saw people only in an external way. Once the world was not clear, they weren't able to see who you really are. You really are a beautiful soul, and a beautiful covering. But they weren't able to see it anymore. What now they saw the person as only externalities. It's an amazing idea. And that's why what they do, when they saw that, they covered themselves. Let me show you this idea. Does anyone know what the word for clothing is in Hebrew? Beged. Beged. So beged is one of the names. Beged, I write in Hebrew and English. Beged. Beged. Does anyone know any other names for clothing? Can you see it that far? Is that what you can see? Yeah? Sort of? Beged. Does anyone know any of the other names for clothing in Hebrew? Levush. Very good. Levush. Levush. Any other names? Does anyone know how you say a coat in Hebrew? Me'il. Very good. Me'il. In English, meal. Meal. Okay. Meal. Now, if you look at these three things, they exactly say the concept I just told you. Beged in Hebrew, which means clothing, is also the word boged. What does boged mean? Boged means betrayal. To betray. What were they saying? The reason why they wanted to put the clothing on was because if they didn't, the body would betray who they really were. Because you would look at me and say, oh, a body, that's all I am. I'm just a physical being to you. The clothing, the beged, was that my body should not betray who I really am. Who's the greater me? You think I'm just a body? It's not true. That's beged. Amazing. Look at the next word, levush. You know what levush means clothing? It means word lo, bosh. No embarrassment. Now, why would we be embarrassed by the body? That is not a Jewish concept. We don't have the idea to be embarrassed about your body. Not at all. So what does it mean, no embarrassment? You know what's embarrassing about the body? What's embarrassing is if you think that's all I am, that's very embarrassing. a beautiful body, as a covering to a much more beautiful soul. That's the essence of who I am, and it's a covering to it. They put on the clothing, the levush, so there'll be low boast, there'll be no embarrassment of saying I'm only a body and not a soul. Amazing. Hebrew's great, huh? Right? It's all there. The third one, me'il. You know what me'il means? It's an amazing concept. Me'il, the sages tell us, is from the word me'ilah. Me'ilah is a term in the